Breaking news from the outer solar system. At precisely 09:23:41 UTC, an array of instruments across 3 continents registered an event of such profound and unsettling nature that it has sent shockwaves through the global astronomical community. The focal point of this upheaval is not some distant anonymous star. It is Jupiter, the gas giant, a cornerstone of our cosmic neighborhood, a planet whose behavior we have charted and modeled for centuries, has just done something impossible. Data streams from the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array in Chile, the Keck Observatory in Hawaii, and the European Space Agency's Deep Space Monitoring Network near Madrid all spiked in unison. They recorded a transient, ultra-low frequency pulse emanating from the heart of Jupiter's turbulent cloud layers, a pulse bearing a spectral signature and modulation pattern that defies every known model of planetary or stellar dynamics. This is not a storm. This is not a magnetic substorm or a volcanic plume from Io. This is structured. If you want more updates as this story unfolds, hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications. What you are about to see changes everything we thought we knew about our solar system. The credibility of this detection is unimpeachable. The signal was captured independently by NASA's Juno probe, currently in its extended polar orbit around the gas giant, by the aging but still razor-sharp Hubble Space Telescope, and by the brand-new eyes of the James Webb, which had Jupiter's northern hemisphere in its spectroscopic crosshairs for a routine atmospheric study. From the Applied Physics Laboratory, where the Juno team monitors every joule of data, to the control rooms of the European Space Operations Center, a silent, stunned confusion has taken hold. Caltech, MIT, the University of Tokyo's Institute of Astronomy, all have verified the raw data packets. There is no instrumental error, no software glitch. The signal, designated Jovian Anomaly 1, or JA1, lasted for precisely 71 seconds. It was a concentrated burst of energy across the radio and low-frequency microwave bands, but its most disturbing feature was its internal architecture. Embedded within the carrier wave was a series of intense, millisecond-long subpulses. When analysts at Harvard's Black Hole Initiative on a lark ran a standard pattern recognition algorithm, the output was unambiguous. The spacing between those subpulses corresponded to the first 6 prime numbers: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. The probability of this occurring through natural plasma oscillation or lightning discharge in Jupiter's atmosphere is, as one senior astrophysicist put it in an internal memo now circulating, statistically equivalent to 0. To understand the magnitude of this revelation, we must rewind the clock. The timeline of strangeness begins not hours, but 37 days before the JA1 pulse. It begins with a quiet, classified report from the United States Space Force's 18th Space Defense Squadron, tracking orbital debris. Their radar nets, designed to spot potential collisions, noted a peculiar and minute perturbation in the orbital elements of several defunct satellites in high Earth orbit. The perturbations were gravitationally insignificant, but geometrically precise, a gentle, coordinated nudge, as if space itself had developed a faint, localized tide. Independent analysis by a small team at the University of Colorado Boulder later traced the source of this subtle gravitational ripple not to the Moon or the Sun, but along a direct line extending to the Jovian system. At the time, it was filed as an unsolved curiosity. 11 days later, the Juno probe's magnetometer began recording anomalous spikes in Jupiter's already colossal magnetic field, not the broad, chaotic surges associated with solar wind pressure, but sharp, needle-like excursions localized to a specific, unchanging longitudinal band in the planet's northern mid-latitudes. The field strength would increase by several hundred nanoteslas over a few minutes, then decay with an exponential precision that made Dr. Eleanor Vance, Juno's deputy principal investigator, deeply uncomfortable. Magnetic fields in fluid planetary interiors don't behave like this, she noted in a secured log. They churn, they fluctuate, they do not pulse. The countdown to the main event accelerated 72 hours prior. The James Webb Space Telescope's mid-infrared instrument, MIRI, detected a drastic and localized cooling in a region of Jupiter's upper atmosphere directly above the magnetic anomaly. A patch of atmosphere roughly the diameter of Earth simply shed thermal energy, dropping nearly 80 Kelvin against the surrounding background. It did not expand or dissipate. It remained a perfect, cold, dark circle against the infrared glow of the planet. Concurrently, the Very Long Baseline Array of radio telescopes recorded a faint but steady neutrino flux emanating from the same coordinates, a telltale sign of processes far more profound than atmospheric chemistry. This was the moment the separate threads of data were woven together by an AI correlation engine at the SETI Institute. The system flagged the confluence of gravitational, magnetic, thermal, and particle anomalies as a single, ongoing event of interest, elevating it to priority alpha. Teams were quietly mobilized. Observation time on every major instrument was reprioritized under emergency protocols, though the public-facing schedules showed no change. Then, at T-minus 11 hours, the visual change occurred. Amateur astronomer Kiara Patel, observing from her backyard in Namibia, was the first human to see it. She was filming Jupiter through a high-resolution spectrometer attachment, hoping to capture the Great Red Spot. What she captured instead and uploaded to a cloud server before alerting authorities was a transformation. Within the cold spot imaged by Webb, the cloud bands began to reorganize. The chaotic, swirling ammonia and ammonium hydrosulfide clouds, driven by jet streams thousands of kilometers per hour, began to slow, to smooth, and to articulate into a pattern of vast, concentric circles. The formation was not static, it rotated as a single coherent plate, utterly unaffected by the hurricane-force winds tearing past its edges. The pattern held a symmetry so exact it appeared machined. No natural process on a gas giant, where the Coriolis force dominates and turbulence is king, could produce such geometric perfection. The image went viral in amateur circles within minutes, dismissed as a clever hoax, but at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, they knew it was real. They had been watching the same evolution through Juno's JunoCam, and the data was already screaming. The JA-1 pulse at 09:23:41 UTC was not the climax, it was a declaration. In its immediate aftermath, the scientific world fractured into two camps. The mainstream, natural hypothesis, championed by Dr. Marcus Thorne of the Goddard Space Flight Center, proposed a cascade of unprecedented but theoretically possible events. A massive, crystalline mantle of metallic hydrogen deep within Jupiter, subjected to unimaginable pressures, had perhaps fractured, releasing a focused burst of gravitational and magnetic energy that, through freak magnetohydrodynamic interactions, structured the escaping radiation. The prime number sequence, a cosmic coincidence, an artifact of human pareidolia imposed on chaotic data. This camp scrambled to run supercomputer simulations, trying to force Jupiter's known physics to replicate the signal. They failed. Every simulation either produced a messy broadband burst or collapsed into gravitational nonsense. The alternative interpretation, whispered in secure video conferences between a smaller, interdisciplinary group from Harvard's Black Hole Initiative, the Blue Marble Space Institute of Science, and a few defectors from ESA, was far more radical. It was led by the controversial but brilliant systems theorist, Dr. Aris Thorne. His hypothesis, we are not looking at a planet, we are, or it contains, a mechanism. A structure of unknown origin and purpose buried within or comprising part of the Jovian interior had just activated a subroutine.
The pulse was not an explosion, it was a focused transmission, or perhaps a diagnostic. The geometric cloud pattern was a non-aerodynamic control surface stabilizing against the atmosphere for a reason. This camp pointed to the neutrino flux. The signature was not of simple decay, but of directed annihilation, a hallmark of controlled matter-to-energy conversion at efficiencies far beyond our technology. We are observing engineering, Thorne argued in a now leaked white paper. The scale is planetary, the physics is unknown, and the intent is currently indecipherable. But to dismiss its artifice is to willfully ignore the data. The internal debate was rendered academic by the second wave of anomalies. 47 minutes after JA1, every fragment of the disintegrated interstellar comet 3I Atlas, which had been tracked drifting harmlessly through the Kuiper Belt for years, lit up, not with reflected sunlight, but with an identical faint infrared signature matching the cold spot on Jupiter. They did not move, they did not accelerate, they simply simultaneously began to emit the same thermal